everyone. It's the final one, the last devotion in Genesis for this term. We hope you've been enjoying coming along with us. We've learned some big things along the way. We've had such a good time with all the amazing dramatic readings that the families have done for us. We've seen some big things, had lots of fun, met lots of different random people. It's been a great term. And now it's the end. If you remember last week, Jacob said his final words. He died and was buried. And we thought about how Jacob has his hope in God. He trusted that God would keep his promises because God has been Jacob's shepherd all his life. But now Jacob has gone. The father is no longer here. So the question is, what's going to happen to the family? Will they keep trusting God's promises and following him as Genesis comes to a close? I wonder what you are like when the teacher leaves the classroom or when your parents leave the table.
Right, class, I'm just going to go for a second and go grab some stuff from the other classroom. Can you please just sit here and stay quiet while I go and grab something else, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
They tend to behave well while they're gone briefly. Maybe they've just got to get something from the cupboards or something. And I wonder what you are like. I'm sure every one of you is super patient and you wait there, you behave yourself, you sit there calmly before your parents or the teacher comes back. Yeah, that's what you're like, I imagine. But maybe some of you, maybe you start disobeying the teacher. Maybe you start trying to talk to your classmate or sibling. Maybe you start being really naughty and you start throwing things and going crazy.
Ow! Oi!
I hope you aren't the last one. Well, Jacob has gone. The father has gone. So what's going to happen to his family, his sons? Are they going to go crazy now and ignore everything he said and did? Are they going to stop trusting in his God? Well, the brothers are scared. I mean, they've been scared quite a lot recently, haven't they? But they're scared because their dad is dead, and now they're scared that Joseph, who's one of the most powerful men in the world, will finally punish them for how horrible they were. You know, back at the start, when they threw him into a pit. Do you remember when I fell into the pit? But now Jacob has gone. So will Joseph pay them back? Is now the time when he's going to crush them? So they fudge a letter, pretending to be from Jacob, to tell Joseph to forgive them. They come up to Joseph and they threw themselves down before him and said, "We are your slaves." They're scared. They're petrified. They throw themselves down before him. And Joseph says these amazing words. The memory verse of this half of the term. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Joseph knows that everything that happened was part of God's plan. So he wasn't angry. He didn't take revenge. He remembered the trust that Jacob, his father, had, and he had, and he has as well. Not only does he not take revenge, but he promises to look after his brothers using the power he has in Egypt. Joseph then lives a long life. We skip through to the end. He gets to see his great-great-great-grandchildren being born. But he never forgets God's promises. Do you remember them? Promises of land, offspring, blessing. He says to his brothers, God will surely come to your aid and take you up out of this land to the land he promised. He doesn't forget God's promises. He doesn't forget God's promises. He knows that the land God promises them is in Canaan, not in Egypt, where they're living now, rumored to escape the famine. So he wants to be buried in Canaan, just where his father Jacob was. He knows that's where God's promises are. And this shows us that Joseph's trust, just like Jacob's, is in God's promises. And that's even more incredible when you think about that Joseph's home was Egypt. He's lived there longer than he lived in Canaan. Egypt was his home. He knew that place better than Canaan, but he knows that God's plan and God's promises are for his people to live in Canaan. So that's where he wants to be buried. He wants to be part of God's plan. He didn't forget God's promises. He forgave his brothers and trusted God to keep his promise of land, along with all the other promises he's given. We've had a long term this term, looking at Joseph. We've seen pits and prisons and famine and death and all sorts of things. And if you remember one thing, it's this: God keeps his promises. Don't forget that this year. Don't forget it over Christmas. I mean, in fact, that's what Christmas is all about. Joseph learned that even if things were going terribly, and they did go terribly, think about the time when he was in a pit, when he was accused of hurting Potiphar's wife, when he was thrown in prison, when he was forgotten about for 2 years. Things went really bad for Joseph, but he knew that God was still in control. God keeps his promises. And he's in charge, so nothing can stop them from coming true. So just like Joseph, you can trust him every day, no matter what happens. What a great term we've had. I hope you've enjoyed it too. I look forward to seeing you sometime soon.